Good evening and welcome to Tok Piksa. In an effort to focus more on preparing our people for disasters, EMTV's news team will be running stories and information on disasters and how to deal with them. Tonight we look at the provinces of West New Britain and Madang to see the effects of continued rainfall and the all-too-real impacts of excessive flooding. Later, we also look at what our scientists in Rabaul are doing to be better prepared for volcanic eruptions. But first, for the last 3 weeks, West New Britain province has been recovering from some of the worst flooding in 2 years. Houses and food gardens have been swept away and the people left with little else. The bill for damaged infrastructure could amount to over 20 million kina. EMTV's Sylvester Gawi was in Kimbe, where he saw the damage not only to bridges, but also to the local economy.
After 3 months of heavy rain in the West New Britain province, many of its vital infrastructures have been destroyed by floodwaters. The Papua New Guinea government is expected to spend millions of kina on fixing these roads and bridges. Continuous rain, wind and flooding in the area also caused destruction to several homes and food gardens. While relief supplies of food and fresh water are slowly being brought into the province, the people are already facing difficulties in rebuilding their lives.
Tide bin come up and bagarapim will garden blomipla. Rainy come, go down bagarapim house, come out in all kappa blo house. Sambla mipla lusi mouse run away about come sile parrelo solwara. Na mipla come stop now, so mipla painimul kai mipla painim lo. Painim fish lo painim market lo sim kai. Bayam kai blomipla lo sevemol pikini blomipla.
While the call for relief support has attracted positive responses from business houses and the government, the ongoing challenge is to develop resilient communities in disaster-prone areas.
Mi place stop ya, mi place stop osem na mi place kirap no gudlo. Rainy come, wara tight come na rausi mo get something na go.
Papua New Guinea's disaster problems are similar to other parts of the Asia-Pacific region. In 2014, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific reported that over 85 million people were affected by natural disasters in the Asia-Pacific region. This includes cyclones, storms, floods, landslides and earthquakes. Over 6,000 people were killed and the cost of damage was around $60 billion. The United Nations also warned that the Asia-Pacific is largely unprepared for natural disasters. It has also called for countries to implement better response strategies in future. In Papua New Guinea, disaster preparedness and community risk reduction programs continues to be underfunded.
The community should take ownership in terms of setting up smaller, kind of a law or something that guidelines that restrict people from doing activities which will contribute to things like flooding, like clearing of bushes unnecessarily.
The floodwaters in West New Britain affected mostly the Mosa local level government area, just outside of the provincial capital Kimbe. Mosa is an oil palm plantation owned by the New Britain Palm Oil, a leading palm oil exporter in Papua New Guinea and the Southern Hemisphere. Many of its plantations are still flooded. Plantation owners say the oil palm trees are dying out and the future of the business is at risk.
Time this la flood where when rain mi bin come, lo planti lo mipla usait mipla stop area long all wara, all creeks, and mipla really affected too because time tide mi come inside ne gonsa long all block, I add lo mipla lo cut him. I was tim all palms lo mipla na bringing me come out lo golo market. Time mipla look behind him can to this pla when mi bin come and mi bin disturbing planti all palms when mipla plant him. So planti all kuru blo oil palm mi broke. Na this la crop and one black and crop or sometime kuru mi broke in another blame by broken. So I'm stopped us all up now.
The disaster risk in West New Britain extends beyond floods and storms. The West New Britain province is home to 4 volcanoes. Several eruptions in the last decade have destroyed many infrastructure, which to date have never been rebuilt. Families affected by disasters are now also facing shortages in food and fresh water supply. They are now camping in tents and are now relying on the little money they have to pay for food items.
Now mi plaka sa parelo solwara lo paine mol piso when something lo sevi mol family blo mi plan now. So mi plaka tol pikinista em no ga mo garden kai now mi plan live now lo arreblo nambis lo kisin fish lo kautin pikinin.
The West New Britain provincial government is also waiting for the 8 million kina allocated by the national government to bring relief supplies into the affected communities.
You're watching Tok Piksa. As West New Britain counted the costs, another province was doing the same. Along the ramu-madang highway, 4 bridges were washed away. Power lines were damaged and cocoa and food gardens destroyed. The government estimates that it will take at least 30 million kina to rebuild the damaged roads and bridges. As work continues, power supply into Madang remains disrupted. EMTV's Tekla Gunga visited the sites affected by the floods.
The effects of climate change are being experienced right across the world, and tropical countries like Papua New Guinea are no exception. As the weather pattern continues to change, more villages, food gardens, and livestock will be affected. In Madang's Usinabundi electorate, recent floods have damaged road infrastructure and other government services in the surrounding communities. The national highway was cut off after heavy rains washed away 4 main bridges linking the ramu-madang highway.
A big issue. 4 bridges over them collapsed. Now we got 2 blames that target where anytime rain put on and 2 pass away.
Willex Desmond is a PMV crew member based in Madang. He was living in Ley since the 10th of March.
People mereng bus to me black time. Sometimes outside mereng. We black am start on the clothes, one last year rice, now you missed out. Almost 3 weeks now.
The cut-off in the road services has affected the villages of Asas, Kesewai, Sausi and Dumpu, making it difficult for them to access health and education services in Madang. Although the floods have subsided, villagers are still living in fear for another series of floods because of the continuous rains. Most food gardens, cash crops and livestock were destroyed, leaving people without food and clean water supply.
The flood, so garden too and pagarap is
in Aumea, the first broken bridge from the Madang side of the highway, much damage have occurred. Madeline Amos and her husband have been living here for over 10 years. They lost all their properties when the floods came. Their house and 2 new vehicles were covered by sediments and their cocoa plantation completely swept away.
Same time, so one block costa come, one time load boy belong. I'm talking papa to carry up Rausi bus na, imi 7 bus tasol one time play at la side. I'm also me plug go stop la side at la bridge time this the damage come up and me play na sawe. Stop go around past 3 or 4 o'clock morning probably play time come looking most okay something float them go back them talk sawe. Me play no at home now. Me play homeless street. I must say this time I must say me play karai.
4 weeks on, and Madeline and her family are starting to rebuild their lives, slowly digging into the soil to unearth what they can.
Taitim sel na kapasite la brits na basa na pem sleep la disla. Start tasol. So limina start with time rain windy come and me miss a wet. Because something wet or same tasol and tasta. Asa na nam plakam cookie at tasol again and plus I go gammon silly. I'm now close to 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This weekend by 3 weeks.
For these villages, it will take several months before they can return to their normal lives or replant their gardens and cash crops.
Now wara mulai no bigi mulside do big la wara na good la clean water ka mulsi. No drink basta.
PMV operators, Bitonat and fresh goods suppliers were directly affected when the roads were cut off.
Miliki mo kora passengers na olman meri na ol travel emol pilimat street lo. Travel one demol cargo blow na ol pigininas lagay.
At least 20 PMV crew members based in Madang were left stranded in Leh, while some were stuck along sections of the Ramu-madang highway.
Leh Madang highway lo ramu suka ko lo usino en big lo pagarap so now Leh Madang highway you me stranded na you me para plant something lo highway.
In that 4 weeks, PMV operators have recorded an increase in their operational costs and a decrease in their daily earnings. A crew normally makes over 8,000 kina for a return trip from Madang to Leh.
200 kina, 245 kina, no money
But are now earning half their normal profits.
Now you make it lost because hard day me carry my passenger go upside so it's like one day you make it 700 and now you make it lost, you make it 300, 200 na. People lost to kata onas the bus or piling pen that's the time you stop because this is still a road.
For passengers using the highway, it's now costing more. Additional fees were charged on each passenger crossing makeshift bridges.
Money.
Michael Dengai was one passenger who paid an extra 50 kina before he was allowed to cross some of these bridges.
At the cross to misspelling 50 kina now long, he come long here now.
On Wednesday, the highway was reopened. It came as a relief for these stranded PMV operators. But the villagers are living in fear of another flood that might strike again and completely destroy their food and water source.
Welcome back to Tok Piksa. While West New Britain and Madang have had their share of disaster-related problems in recent weeks, East New Britain Province also entered a state of alert after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck between Rabaul and New Ireland Province last week. The Rabaul Volcano Observatory has since been on full alert to monitor seismic activity that may cause possible tsunami and eruptions. Volcanologists at the center have predicted a minor eruption between June and July. With the help of new seismic instruments, volcano-related activities can be monitored in real time. EMTV's Edwin Fidelis was at the Rabaul Volcano Observatory and files this story.
About 5 days ago, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck between New Ireland and East New Britain provinces. In a short while, tsunami alert was issued, and many coastal communities in various parts of the New Guinea Islands region were on alert for a possible tsunami. In 1994, Tavurvur and Volcano erupted and devastated the town of Rabaul, a natural disaster that cost the PNG government several millions of kina to reconstruct the town of Rabaul and relocated it to Kokopo. Much of the information gathered for the 1994 eruption and the recent 7.4 magnitude earthquake came from here, the Rabaul Volcano Observatory. This is where volcano, earthquakes and tsunami activities are closely monitored. Ima Itikarai, the veteran volcanologist who have been working here since 1984, showed me how data is gathered mostly through audio signals and converted to reliable information before it is issued to the public.
Every earthquake that happens, we measure the biggest amplitude. So the biggest amplitude, because we measure it in millimeters. But actual, in the electronics, it's in voltage. So you got no electronics here, it's in volts. But for us processing this information, we measure this in amplitudes to try and determine the magnitude or especially magnitude of an earthquake.
This is an old-fashioned seismograph that is used to monitor earthquakes. In recent years, it became obsolete in many volcanology all over the world due to its inefficiency in providing earthquake-related data.
Most of the countries around the world are discontinuing to record on helicopter papers because it doesn't show enough information or enough useful information. So they have converted to the computer screen system, which produces much more information. And because it's sort of it is a digital system, those data have been stored in computers that can be looked at a later time. And so using that those recorded data, we can pull up this earthquake information again, pick up times, or locate the earthquakes and see where they come from, or work out their magnitudes and so forth.
These new instruments that were recently set up now replaces the old seismograph. A plant like this cost about 12,000 kina.
We have several other smaller observatories within Papua New Guinea. They are based in Ulamona in West New Guinea, Kime in West New Guinea also, Langila also in West New Guinea province. We have one in Bagana in the autonomous region of Bougainville, and we have one in Manang in Medan province. There was supposed to be another, Kakar, also in Medan, but that is currently out of service.
It assists volcanologists to determine what's going to happen and when, and the results are more accurate and reliable.
This information coming in from one of the stations in Rabaul caldera. So this is a record for one day. A trace along this, a horizontal trace complete is 30 minutes. And so where the trace is straight, it's background noise. But on this screen, there's a lot of disturbances, and all these disturbances are earthquakes. So these are mainly earthquakes that are aftershocks of the 30th of March earthquake, the 7.4 or 7.5 magnitude earthquake.
In recent years, the Department of Mineral Policy and Geohazard Management, with the help of overseas donors, have invested in seismic instruments that monitor volcano activities in real time. The instruments here gathered volcano information not only in Rabaul but also from West New Britain Province, Buka, and even as far as Manam in Madang Province. The information gathered here is passed on to the provincial authorities, and warnings are issued to the public in any event of an earthquake or a volcano eruption. The principal volcanologist has the responsibility to recommend to the Provincial Disaster Committee of any changes in the stages of any disaster alert.
And so we provide that information to the Provincial Disaster Committee or the Provincial Disaster Office through email communication. So what we do is we provide volcano information bulletins on a monthly basis, but if there is eruptive activity going on, we provide information on a fortnightly basis. If the activity is high, then the volcano information bulletin comes out more frequently, like on a daily or 2 daily basis.
Since February this year, the Rabaul Volcano Observatory has predicted a minor eruption between June and July following a close observation on a series of consecutive earthquakes in recent months. Mr. Itikarai said there is a possibility that an eruption might happen or it might not.
A big eruption is probably going to be similar to the eruptions that we observed last year on the 29th of August. And there were similar eruptions, one-off eruptions in 2013, 2012 and 2011. So this is one-off eruption which will probably last a few to several hours and finish. And so in that sense, it can be regarded as a smaller eruption.
The Rabaul Volcano Observatory is one of the very few volcanology in the Pacific region that monitors volcano activities, and it is the only one in existence in the country. Although small, it will remain one of the most significant infrastructures that continue to assist East Nubitan province to triumph over Tavurvur's adversity.
This has been another edition of Tok Piksa. We hope you enjoyed the program. If you just joined us or missed any part of the show, not to worry, you can view the full version of tonight's episode or any of our previous ones by visiting EMTV online at www.mtv.com.pg. And until next time, I am Neville Choi, and it's been a pleasure having your company. Good night.